Committee report. Yeah.
Okay, I think we're good to go.
Okay. Welcome everybody to the museum board meeting of August the 6th, 2025. This time I'd ask if there's any disclosure of pecuniary interest, declare it now or as the meeting goes on. First motion is to approve the minutes of the board meeting. The motion reads that we approve the minutes of the Nipissing Township Museum Board meeting held July 2nd, 2025 as presented. Any discussion? No? All in favor?
Need a mover and a second.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I do, don't I?
Yes.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
thank you, Mayor, yeah. Okay, David, thank you. I knew that. Because Steve put his hand up, so. Okay. I'm not making any more mistakes. So staff updates, the financial and visitor statistics.
All right, so these are just for July. I haven't included the few days of August that have passed already. So the total revenue for the month was $1,183.55. So you can see the break. You should have as part of your package the breakdown. So $240 was candy, $273.50 was gifts or merchandise. So that includes the clothing and the books and other small items. Donations was $276.30, and special events was $399.50. So I also just have a little breakdown of the event revenue. So of that $399.50, $334.50 was from the Tea and Talk event. So that was food items that were purchased on the day of the event, either sort of served as part of the sit down part of the event or takeaways at the end of the event. Some of it also came later from staff purchasing food items out of the freezer, just because there was quite a bit left over. And $65 came from the butter making workshop. So that's the revenue. So there's just sort of a small summary of the event costs so far and the revenue from those events. So as I mentioned, the tea and talk and the butter making, there were some costs that were multi event costs. So for some things, such as the whipping cream that was used at the tea and talk event, whatever was left over was then used for the butter making the next week. We only had to purchase a few extra supplies, kind of thing. Or some things are things that are going to get used throughout the course of the summer. So that's captured in there, along with the costs for the basket making. The revenue on for the basket making, that's a projected revenue. It should actually be $240 because we've had a few last minute registrations. So we should have about 24 people. So that should be a positive.
So that's not 210, it's 240?
It should be 240, yeah.
Okay.
Again, that's just a projection. We'll see how many people turn up on the day of. It's just sort of so that the board can see that overall the events are at least breaking even, or we're at least recuperating the costs. The cost for Heritage Day, some of that will be multi-event costs. I don't have anything else purchased for that yet, and obviously we don't have the revenue for that yet either. but I left it in there because it was, like I said, part of the multi-event costs. Okay, so for visitors, so far at the museum, we've had 168 people. So for just the museum, there have been 41 visitors. For just the gift shop, there have been 26 visitors. Visitors who both looked at through the museum and purchased from the gift shop, there were 20 people. And then for events, we've had about 81 people in total. And that also includes the Command Summerfest. We did track how many people came up to the booth for that. So again, there's another breakdown for the events for the visitors. So Tea and Talk, we had about 28 people. For the butter making, we had 13 in the end. 2 had called ahead to cancel. They were unable to make it after all. And 3 didn't show up. We've had a few people come for the stitch and sip a couple of weeks in a row. There have been no one for the past couple of weeks. And for Summerfest, we actually had about 34 people stop in at the booth, including the board members. Yeah, so that's the financial and visitor statistics.
Your tea and talk was so well done. You guys did a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
I've been, well, and your butter making, I've heard great things
Yeah?
about, because my neighbor's granddaughters go,
Oh, okay.
and they loved it.
Awesome.
So they brought the product home and put it in their grandpa's paint shaker, and no butter.
Oh, no.
But they loved it. But anyhow,
Good.
the tea and talk, you did a great job. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, and in command at the
I thought so
Summerfest.
too.
What a
Yeah.
great setup you had.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It
well
was
done.
certainly a good learning experience, but we'll talk about that later. I think
Yeah.
there's something else to ask.
I would like to express my appreciation to Jillian and the 2 summer students, and I'm sorry, I don't know their names off by heart, for all the hard work that was put into the Tea and Talk. Jillian especially, I mean, she worked her butt off the day before. We were here from 9 o'clock in the morning or thereabouts, and I left at 5 and she was still here. So she worked really hard that day. So if it was a success, it was due to you and the
Yeah.
girls. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been very, very lucky in our museum students this year. I'm extremely impressed at how much they've learned over the past few years, and how they've applied it. If we could keep having them come back, I'd be really happy.
Just the odds are
I know,
they will grow up and move on.
I know, just not yet.
Okay. So building and maintenance.
So the lighting in the hardware store was recently replaced. As many of you may remember, it had a hard time staying on. So when I believe some other things were being done in one of the other township buildings, and they had the electrician come and do that at the same time. So it is now quite bright, and it's much easier to see the artifacts, and it's lovely. On another note, I don't think we mentioned we were unsuccessful.
We haven't yet, just
Okay.
in the report.
Okay, so we were unsuccessful with the OTF grant for the foundation repairs this time around.
So again, they haven't really given us any feedback. So Jillian and I, because of the events coming up, haven't had a chance to reach out to the Ontario Children Foundation to find out if they have any other feedback. The last time the feedback was it was a very robust application. There's just so many applications and very little money to go around with the applications. I imagine we'll hear the same feedback again. However, we will do a follow-up call to have an update for the September board meeting, and we'll investigate other opportunities like we talked about before with the NOHFC. However, they changed their funding model this year, so I'm not sure how we'll fall into that. So, but we'll keep trying.
Well, because we did have to close the building this year, that might help with the application because it's now becoming more urgent.
Yeah.
So we'll just have to see.
Okay. event planning.
Okay, so, um, so just a bit of a wrap up on the tea and talk. So we did receive some, again, just going back to the cost, we did receive some ingredients through donations. So Bella Hill, maple syrup donated, the maple syrup that's used for the baking. The rest is currently in the fridge and we'll use for the Remembrance Day event, for whatever we make for that. Dual Rule Farms donated eggs for baking the scones and the bacon for the sandwiches. We had kept the leftover bacon in the freezer, so I'm not sure if we'll use it maybe as a topping for Heritage Day. I'm gonna pay 50 cents extra for that. So there were some positive takeaways from the event. If we do a similar event moving forward, I have also heard that people missed the Pie Fest. Even though this is a very similar structure, they missed Pie Fest. So I don't know if it's something that's worth going back to, but instead of expecting the community to bake pies and donate them, we would just bake them here as we did this year.
I heard the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard it.
So, which is fine. It would just, we'd probably just have a more limited selection of flavors than we would have had in other years when it was coming from lots of different people. So another thing that worked out well and was partially a fluke was having the workshop the next week with pre-registration. They used up some of the leftovers. So apart from the whipping cream because it lasts, also the bread that had been purchased for the event, it was used as part of the butter making. I think it, to be honest, made the workshop. It was so good, and it just, yeah, it was very, very much appreciated. So that sort of worked out well, combining the events like close together in that way. It certainly cut down on waste. I think having the menu and the cost on the poster helped initially. I've heard some feedback from one or two of you about people commenting on that when they took the posters around. So I think that's something, if we do Pie Fest or if we do something else, having that on the poster helped. The other thing that seemed to work well was having the gazebo available for people to sit in instead of having, for example, the drinks set up in the gazebo or having a band in the gazebo. People seem to gravitate more towards that than to the tables and tents. The other thing that was appreciated by the people that happened to come was having the vegan options. There were a few people that bought extras to take away. So I think having things that are inherently without being specifically vegan, and having additional, like having the option of toppings that maybe aren't vegan. So having the whipping cream or having the herb cream cheese that people could add, who have no dietary requirements in that direction, was helpful. We also did, so even if we did Pie Fest, we could still do something like include a savory option. There were more sweets and savories that were sold, about a 2-to-1 or 3-to-2 ratio, but some people did buy both. Some people did buy a savory and then the dessert. And having the booth there did mean I think people stayed longer, and the people that were there had a fuller experience than when it was just the food. If that makes sense. The two groups that came were also fantastic. So Tom had, for those of you who weren't there, he brought an entire log on a stand, so you could actually tap the tree, as it were, and see how easy it was. And Bella Hill had brought not only some sort of historic equipment, and so you could see sort of the evolution of it through the ages, but some examples of what happens to the trees after they've been tapped and it's sort of healed and grown over for after a few years. So I think most of the visitors took a look at each booth and chatted with them for a fairly significant amount of time.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Jillian, there was also a couple that came from Germany. She was a museum archivist.
Archivist,
Yeah,
curator.
yeah.
Yeah.
And her and I chatted for about an hour in the museum. She was very impressed. She was telling me how after the war, in Austria, she got a job, and she actually had to go from barn to barn to barn to barn to find all these artifacts that had been ferreted away. And then she had to list them all and categorize them all. And so she was very appreciative of the amount of work that goes into having even a little museum like we have. So yeah, she had and they were just passing through and saw the signs and came in. So yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah, so unfortunately, we didn't have as many people as we hoped. But those, for the most part that came in, they did stay for quite a while and seemed to enjoy it. So we did, as I mentioned, we've been doing a stitch and sip on Wednesdays. So we did have a group that they were already established as a group that would get together. And they came a few times and worked on the crazy quilt that we have as a demonstration piece. And they heard about that through Facebook. We haven't had any individuals dropping in so far, but we're gonna keep having it up and see if, as the summer goes on, we get anyone else. For the butter making, as I said, a few failed to come, some called to cancel, but said they'd be interested in coming if we ran the workshop again on a different date. And having, for example, the bread, having things to mix into the butter, it went over really well. Most of the participants that did come, they also stayed at the end, and they went through, especially the hardware store where we have a lot of the butter making equipment and dairy equipment. They stayed for quite a while, like 20 to 40 minutes, looking through the museum afterwards. So, and some of them were people that we'd seen through the museum before. Some of them I don't think had been before. That was interesting.
I think having the butter making thing adds relevance to what they were looking at before that they were looking at but not seeing, you know?
Yes.
Like in the corner, you got the cream separator, and then partway down, you got the butter there.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, so that helps.
It definitely helped to add context, whether they were interested in history or not, I think. And we had sort of a good range of ages there, so there were a few, you know, everywhere from, I think, age 5 or 6 up into 60s. So some folks came as a family. I think a couple people came with friends. It was a good sort of all ages group. Yeah, so I'm hoping to run it again next year. And we sort of pretty much the exact same thing, the bread, the extra things to mix in, the tour afterwards. Because it was actually quite simple to put together. It didn't require a whole lot of staff time ahead of time to prepare and set up. And the costs, like we recouped all the costs, which was good. So again, just a wrap up of the Summer Fest. So although it wasn't as busy as I know they hoped it would be, and perhaps it doesn't make sense for every year for us to close the museum, have all the staff there, it was a very good opportunity for staff to see the Commanda Museum's displays and to meet some of the people involved, not just with the museum, but also with the community center. So we do have some homework to follow up on for the Commanda Museum. For Darlene, I've got one of the students working on some information she asked for. And it was a good learning experience in terms of outreach. If we are invited to a similar event, we found that the one artifact that we brought, the circumferenter, which Emma had learned how to demonstrate last year for the exhibits, was quite popular. Something that was not static made a difference, especially in such a busy event. There's so many things going on, even if there weren't that many visitors, there were so many things going on, sort of calling your attention. Having something interactive worked well.
It was a really well-ran event. It's a shame
Yeah,
500 more people didn't show up because it had set up so
Yeah,
well.
they did.
They put a lot of work into it.
They
The
did.
music was beautiful. It's,
Yeah.
everything was great.
well, as they said, it takes time to establish
Yeah.
an event on that
I
scale,
was talking
so,
to Jennifer today and she thought that it went off pretty good and she
Yeah.
really liked it.
Yeah.
She thought that was great that we showed up, that
yeah.
it was,
I think it was a really good thing, and I hope they keep inviting us again each year. As I said, even if we don't all go, but at least, you know, maybe one staff and one volunteer from the board, something
Yeah.
like that.
I'm sure that Darlene will be calling it throughout the year because she won't let that go. She liked what happened.
And she was lovely. She was very welcoming. The other thing that I noticed, because for the basket making, we had some experimenting to do in terms of determining quantity and things like that. So I had a little sample that I was fiddling with when it was quiet there. That grabbed people's attention too. So if we have sort of examples for upcoming workshops, bringing that to some of those, like to an event like that would be a good idea as well. I also should have brought advertising posters for events and I didn't think of it, but I will next time. So there were a lot of takeaways from that. And as I say, if we are invited again next year, we will bring something even more fantastic. So yeah. So for the workshop coming up tomorrow, we currently have 24 people signed up. We also donated 2 free passes to the silent auction raffle at the Summerfest. So we may have a few more people. It was certainly more involved in terms of staff time, but we've now sort of done that upfront work of figuring out the quantity of materials needed for a certain size, how long it's going to take to make that. So hopefully it goes well on the day. And again, it's something that we could do a variation of again next year, perhaps on a different day of the week. I was surprised that we had 24 people for Thursday. I can only imagine how many people we might have on a weekend day. And the other thing that we've done for this was prepare a survey. So hopefully we'll also get a little bit more feedback from people about what they'd sort of like to see in the future.
Are any of the people that are registered for the basket weaving the same people that came to the butter making? Just out of curiosity?
I think there were some duplicate names, but some of them were the people that hadn't showed up to the butter making.
That's fine.
So.
I was just curious.
Yeah, so we were able to get the education discount at Michael's craft store for the materials as well, so that helped a little bit. So now the museum's in their system if we do have other workshops that require that type of material. So fingers crossed that goes well tomorrow, and get some good feedback. So next up is Heritage Day. Dry Runners are booked. They will be coming for 3 hours for $375. So that's lovely. For the silent auction, community partners have been contacted. A few have already offered donations. There have also been some donations from individuals, mostly sort of gently used items kind of thing. And that brings us to the barbecue. So there is a motion for this one.
Do you want to give us some information about it before
Yes.
we can talk about the price?
So In the past, we have done hamburgers, sausages, and hot dogs. Sometimes we've done just burgers and hot dogs. I was looking at past numbers. We generally sell more hamburgers and sausages, and far fewer hot dogs. I got some information about what's available through Mill Bay Market, and they have 4-ounce burgers, which is what we've got in the past. And they have a choice between their 5-inch sausages or 7-inch sausages. I was wondering, instead of having 3 different options, if we wanted sort of a larger option and a smaller option, we could do the burgers and the smaller sausages, which would be 3 ounces. And sell those at a relative price. So if we sold the burgers for $8, which is historically what we've done in the past few years, and the sausages for $5, and each meal would include a cold drink. I have had a few people point out that some kids don't like sausages,
Yeah, kids,
and it
kids are
might be
gonna want
worth
hot
having
dogs.
the hot dogs just for that. Like for that reason, even though we don't sell as many. Historically, we sell anywhere from 25 to 50 meals, depending on turnout, plus volunteers. So the band, any volunteers for the museum, plus the volunteers from the fire department who run the barbecue, would all get a free meal as well. So, yeah.
So,
We should have hot dogs.
Yeah,
yeah, before we
Okay.
put the motion on the floor, let's have a
Okay.
discussion and then we can, or I can put the motion on the floor but it'll have to be changed if we decide not to do something, so.
so, if we were to do hot dogs as well, I would then suggest we do the 7-inch sausages, which are Italian flavored. Just because I've also been told if there's an option between, like on a barbecue menu, you often expect it to be the bigger kind. Whatever, if it was the smaller ones, I put it on the poster so that people know what they're getting. But then there's sort of more options. Does that make sense?
Do you need more options? Can you?
No, we don't need-
Hamburgers and hot dogs?
Yeah, we could. We do tend to sell more sausages than hot dogs, and I have heard feedback from other people that if there are not sausages, they are not coming.
Oh, really?
So let's do 7-inch sausage.
Okay, so,
Is everybody good with that?
so we're doing hamburgers, sausages, and
Yeah,
hot
and
dogs?
then you have a bun with a
It's
full.
got a full sausage in it.
That's
Yeah,
right,
yeah,
not,
okay.
you take 2 inches off the bun and then bite the meat, you might as well.
So we should charge $8 for that too then?
Yes,
Yeah.
Oh,
or,
That's what we did
Yeah.
historically in the past.
yeah, so the
Yeah.
hamburgers and the sauce, the larger sausages, it was $8 each.
Yeah.
And then the hot dogs were cheaper at $5.
$5.
And
Right.
each one would include a cold drink, so a can of pop or lemonade or a bottle of water.
so the only, option I will throw out there and it's only one that I know has worked historically for things I've been involved in the past, is you don't put a price on it, you just say it's a donation for the museum.
Okay,
Typically, you make more money when you say it's a donation than you do when you put a price on it. As
we
an
do
ex-
that for tours, like our tours are admission by donation.
And the only reason I say that is because, like, just as an example, the Lions did a hot dog sale
Mhm.
in June, beginning of July, end of June, beginning of July. And that's all we sold, was hot dogs.
Mhm.
And they were those ones that they had on sale for, you got 10 for $1. They were dirt cheap. They were still good hot dogs though. And we made $435 in 3 hours.
Okay,
By donation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
people
So
would
you're
come
doing
up.
quite a lot of people.
Yeah,
Donation of-
people come up and if they know that you're raising money for, and you have to say
Mhm.
what it's for, obviously. And in this case, it would be, and the broad it's for the museum might be a little bit too broad. Maybe it's for restoration of something or the building or whatever. Maybe not the building, but, you just, have a jar there and they just put their money in the jar. And some people put in $1 or 50 cents, but most people will put in 10 or 20 bucks.
They do, it's kind of,
Well, what historically, I'm just thinking of Tom Morrow with the popcorn cart.
Mhm.
And he typically donates it to something local.
Mhm.
Usually the rec committee or something like that. Or the food bank or something. Do we know what he's been donating after these events? It normally announces it.
So I think anywhere, in events he's been at the museum, from what I remember, anywhere from about 30 to 50 bucks.
Okay.
Is that that's just for popcorn?
That's just
no?
for
So
popcorn.
and that's just donation only.
Yeah.
Donation only, yeah.
What's the cost?
I don't
I
know,
don't
Yeah.
know.
for the popcorn.
Yeah,
I know the cost for the meat. So, we've got bulk pricing. And so that would include, for the longer sausages, there's gonna be about 48 sausages per case, and it's $81. The burgers, there's 40 burgers per case, it's $88. The hot dogs, 35 per bag, and it's 25 per bag. So if we order one of each,
I wouldn't order a bag of hot dogs.
no, that it'd be more than what we get. I don't know if it would change the pricing. If we order less, right now we're getting the bulk pricing, I believe.
But if you went somewhere else and just bought hot dogs?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't imagine you're gonna sell,
Those are the jumbo hot dogs, sorry. Oh, I didn't realize that.
So that cost is $194 there, I think.
Yeah,
hmm,
last year with the rain and we had a relatively poor turnout, the money generated from the barbecue was $174. That was about 21 meals that were actually paid for.
So if you had a couple.
And that's
it
not
costs
buns
16.
yet.
And that
Then
doesn't
I put a
include
20.
buns or
20 in
condoms
that.
on top
Yeah.
or anything.
Yeah.
that's just it.
Yeah, or they're gonna
If-
put a
if
10.
Debbie
You
said
get
if you have
$10
a
or you put a
couple
10,
that's
yeah.
16, if they want 2 burgers or 2 sausages, they're gonna put a 20 in.
Saying a
Yeah.
single person's gonna put a 10 in,
Okay,
because you're not really offering change, right?
Yeah,
well,
no,
that's the thing, is that gonna be a problem if people are
no,
feeling like they can't
it won't
ask for
be.
change
no. it
and they're
won't be.
paying more than what they would normally have done if we had a float.
Somebody might say, can you change my 20 for a
Yeah.
10 and then throw in a 10?
But some people will be too embarrassed to ask.
But it's,
resented
if it's by
afterwards.
donation only, then you
Yeah.
make it very clear that I just think that where the municipality's doing this for the people in the municipality, and I really think that charging them for, like, I know we charged at the sit and sip, I know we did, but, and I understand that, but for a hamburger or a hot dog, I think that if we end up not making enough to cover the cost of the food, then the board will cover the 20 bucks that we're short. But I guarantee you that we will make more money doing it that way than I've done it that way many, many times. Another example I can give you is we did a Christmas party for kids one year, and we just charged, we didn't charge anything. And the kids came in and everybody got a breakfast and they got to visit with Santa. And it was by donation only, and we made almost $700. And there were 100 families came in, so, or not even 50 and 20, 70 families came in.
What
So-
kind of a population base did you have backing you up though?
Powassan.
Oh, Boston.
We did it, the Lions Club did it last Christmas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And we just decided that because we were doing it for the community, we would just do it on donation only. And if they came in and they couldn't afford to donate, that was okay too.
Mhm.
There's no pressure to donate. So, but it's up to the board. It was just a suggestion.
And some people might only, like she said, throw in a loony or a tea, but you're gonna.
It's worth trying.
I mean, why not try and see?
And if it doesn't happen to work for this event, you
Then-
can
then
always
we'll
Then you
we'll
can
know
just
next
go
time
back to the
not
drawing
do it.
board.
Yeah.
By
We
donation
got to
only.
lose,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
By donation.
Hopefully not.
Offer hamburgers with the drink,
Get that out
sausages,
there, like a
with the drink,
donation
hot
to
dogs
a
with the drink,
donation
by
only.
donation.
We've already
That's
got
perfect.
posters out.
Okay.
I mean, but it doesn't put, I didn't put a price or
Or
anything on them.
But you could just do a new poster about the canteen items by
Yeah,
donation only.
Just have a sign that says by donation for the barbecue.
okay.
I'm sure the firemen will be the fire guys will be more than happy to not have to mess around with money and change.
Oh, they don't?
No, they don't, it's
They
our,
don't?
it's our staff that does.
Oh, it's your
Yeah.
stuff, okay.
So
Somebody-
I suppose
somebody
that
else
would
plays
free
with
up a
the money.
volunteer, because we wouldn't need someone to
That's
watch it.
No, you just need a container for them to put the
Yeah,
money in.
and then people can still, if they want to do it by debit, we can still have them do that by debit. We'll just have a sign. there.
You could just say donation by cash or debit, so then that allows people to.
That way they know.
So after that amount of discussion, I will need a mover and a seconder for this motion in regards to the food, the barbecue food at the Heritage Day event. So the motion now reads that the Nipissing Township Museum during the Heritage Day 2025 event offer 4-ounce hamburgers with a drink,
We gotta change this to
7-ounce sausages with a drink, and,
Or sorry, they're 7 inches, not 7 ounces.
oh.
Sorry, I calculated the ounces for the smaller ones.
Ah,
Oh, and not that, okay.
okay,
We'll
perfect.
just say sausages then,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Does it really matter how big?
No,
Okay,
Say sausages.
Well,
so
even the burger.
Let
does
me
it matter
start
how big
again.
is? No.
It only mattered if we were gonna shrink the options and only have the smaller sausages
Okay.
and the
So
burgers.
just say hamburgers, sausages and hot dogs with the drink.
So this motion
I then
is
don't
a
have
mess,
to type so
but-
much tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
So that the
No.
Nipissing Township Museum during the Heritage Day 2025 event offer hamburgers with a drink, sausages with a drink, and hot dogs with a drink by donation. I need a mover and a seconder. Debbie, Steve? So all in favor? Awesome, thank you. And like Gladys said, we can only try and see what happens, right?
And then
You
we'll
don't
know
try, you
next
don't
time.
know.
Well, that's just it. That's just it.
And you'll still know how many you sell, like you can still keep a tally of how much you sell, you just won't know.
We usually use
You're
tickets.
still gonna know how much. you
I
sell for
would
what quantity
suggest
you
if,
bought.
I wouldn't buy a bag of hot dogs.
Okay, so.
I personally wouldn't. If you don't normally sell that many, I would
But-
just,
But for future reference, it's still a good idea to keep a tally of
Oh,
what
yeah.
went out.
Yeah.
Because that way you know if you've made off like a bandit or lost your shirt, one or the other.
yeah,
Yeah.
you,
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're still gonna have to keep track of what, we're gonna keep
yeah,
track of what they
I
sell.
don't
Because
know
we
if
can use
there's
that
somewhere else you
comparative
can just
for
buy
next
like
year.
Giant Tiger, go and
Did
get
we
hot
work?
dogs.
Did it work?
I will
No.
ask the person who takes care of purchasing the meat.
Yeah.
Cause there's
Yeah.
also, because if they have another event in mind for the leftovers, it might still be worth buying the bag, it just, the museum won't be charged for all of it. And we try
Then we would do that with like with
Yeah.
the soccer
Yeah.
people or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense, totally.
And we
Yeah,
try to do local, that's why we do Mill Bay, because they're a
Yeah.
local place, so.
yeah,
That
absolutely.
always gives us a good deal.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially if we're buying in bulk.
so that's done. Okay,
Um,
so we're on to the artifact status report,
Do you have one more event?
or do we have another
There's the
event?
remembrance, lunch. There's not really much about the event part, so I'll talk about the exhibit stuff later on in the agenda. So for the artifact collections update, we have a motion for the outboard motor and the duck decoys from Phil Rimmer And I did ask, yes, the stand would be donated with the motor if the museum decides to accept it.
Okay.
That was
We
that.
did discuss this at the last meeting.
Yeah.
But I don't believe there was a decision made. So currently, the motion reads that the outboard motor be declined and the duck decoy artifacts be accepted from Phil Rimmer for donation to the Nipissing Township Museum and be added to the collection catalog. I need a mover and a seconder, and then we can have a discussion, guys. Dave? Okay, so now we can have a discussion before I call for the vote. I think at the last meeting, we thought that no on the outboard motor.
I had
That's the
suggested
way-
no on the.
Yeah, that's the way I remembered it, but I wasn't sure, so I thought it was best that we just have another discussion today, but that we definitely wanted the duck decoy because they're actually not wood, right?
Yeah, they're different to the ones that
Than
we
we
have,
currently
and
have.
they sort of represent a different time period.
Right,
Is he good with this, that we only take the decoys?
Yeah.
Perfect.
okay?
Yeah.
So the motion then stands as it was read, so that we decline the outboard motor and that the duck decoy artifacts be accepted from Phil Rimmer for donation. All in favor? Perfect, thank you. Okay,
So, the next motion, is there's 3 cast iron trivets, all slightly different styles. There's no specific provenance, but they were found, locally in Boston. Although the museum does have a surplus of sat irons, which historically have been used with trivets, we have very few trivets of the same size. So 2 of the ones that are on offer have maker's marks and likely date from the late 1800s to the early 1900s. One was made in Ontario, one was made in Montreal. The third is slightly different, and it's a model that was sold by the T. Eaton Company in the first half of the 1900s. So I would recommend that we do accept these. They go with artifacts that we currently have, but are not completely represented because they are missing a trivet.
I'll move it.
Dave, Steve, oh, Dave and Bob, Steve. So the motion then reads that the 3 trivet artifacts from Bernadette Kerr be accepted for donation to the Nipissing Township Museum and be added to the collections catalog. All in favor? Thank you.
So next we have a few items from Mike Bruce. So one is a mechanical screwdriver. So this is the type where it will pop in and out through a number of grooves rather than using a crank, and obviously with that electrical power. So we do have one already in the collection. However, this is one of the types of tools that visitors like because it's sort of got mechanical parts. It's something that if we accept it as part of a working collection rather than a static object, it can be used for hands-on activities for all ages. I think it would be something kids especially would find interesting if they could actually make it work, or like actually touch it and pick it up and see how it works. So I would recommend accepting that as part of a working collection. Also on offer from Mike was a hygrometer, so it reads relative humidity. there's there's no particular history to this area. I'm not sure what relevance it would have been in this area.
That was sort of the weatherman back in the day.
Yeah, but it was, so the way, it's on a handle, and there's two thermometers. And you're calculating it based on the differential between the two thermometers after whipping it in the air for a few minutes. But the thing is, I mean, how often would that have been used in the, say, the businesses that would have been in this area? Like, it's not like it's not a barometer. It's not like a weather thing, as far as I understand. Like, it might have been used for measuring relative humidity inside in different places.
Hay barns.
Yeah, that's something it would have been used frequently for.
If the humidity's up in a hay barn, there's a good chance it's gonna burn down
Yeah.
in January.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Big
Yeah.
no, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay,
Cause
Wet
you put
hay.
your feet away wet.
yeah. Oh, I
Go in
know.
a week and put your hand down about 3 bales down. you'd be
It's hot.
shocked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hot,
It'll
yeah.
get blisters on it.
Yeah. that's
I knew
right.
that. I wasn't sure how many people measured the humidity with a tool versus just
I
knowing
don't know
through
about
practice.
measuring it, but lots of
and
barns
how
went
the
up in
weather
fire because they
feels.
did.
Yeah.
But I think part of that is just because it's not something that we're familiar with
Yeah.
in this generation, but a lot of people may have used it. I mean, we don't know really, we
Yeah.
can't say.
I don't
right?
remember ever
So-
seeing one though. Not-
No?
But there again, I mean, we didn't have a big farm either.
Yeah.
We were just kind of
So-
mobile.
It's not something that I have seen before or have heard discussed in this context before just now. And as I said, it's not something that's from this area. And I'm not sure that it would be a useful part of, say, a working collection. I can do some more digging and we can come back to that if we think that we might like to accept it, if we can.
Because the mechanical screwdriver, they still make those.
I know.
I have one.
Oh, I'm sure you do, Steve. I just want something that I can have people handle
Yeah.
and
Oh,
understand
yeah,
what
no,
came
no.
before the electric drill.
But I
The
also
electric screwdriver.
think that this hygrometer is something that you can show a use for what was prevalent in this area. There, I mean, it's a
I
rural
don't know that it
farming
was
community.
prevalent in this area. That's where I'm just,
But there would have been
I-
hay in everybody's barn.
Yeah, there would have, you don't
Everybody
have
would've
to
had
say
hay
it
in the
was
barn.
used in
No.
somebody's barn, but what you can indicate to people that ask, well, what's it for?
Yeah.
Well, one of the possible uses would be, because it's definitely a use for something like that.
I just, based on experience, once it gets put in the hardware store, I think it's because we do not have a lot of space, there are a lot of things that in order to properly care for the artifacts that we currently have, we do need to get rid of. So I think it will just blend in and it might end up being one of the artifacts that eventually is got rid of because there's no historical significance specifically to this area. You might have one or two people asking about it. Based on the experience I have, I don't see a lot of people asking about it. Especially once it's put up in the exhibits, it's gonna blend in with a whole bunch of other things. If I could do further research and, okay, I do find out that a lot of people in this area had them, used them, okay. I would accept it. I don't think we should accept anything lightly just because it could have been used in this context. If we
So
had infinite space,
are
it
you
would be
asking us to change this motion, to leave that for further discussion when you get more information on it?
would that be okay?
That's totally up to you.
I would just
At this
like to be
point.
sure that it's gonna contribute to the collection and not just become another burden on our resources, that's all.
How
Okay.
old would it be?
That I'm not sure.
No.
But,
Our drying buildings,
Yeah.
when I was young,
Yeah.
we dried first.
okay,
And they were all set up to humidistats, cause your humidity had to be perfect
Yeah.
in those rooms, cause you were drying them throughout.
Yeah.
So that's the modern day. So as soon as your humidity got to 50, everything cut in at one time and blew all that humidity back down to 50.
Yeah.
It had to be perfect.
Yeah.
Or you couldn't dry them, they'd mold.
would
So-
you like to come in and look at this artifact and?
Well, this would be totally different than,
Yeah.
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 Okay,
Do
so
you
the
have it at
motion now
museum?
reads, the
Pardon?
motion
You
then now
have it?
reads.
I do, it's there, so if we don't end up, sorry, Jane.
Yeah, it's okay. So the motion now reads that the mechanical screwdriver from Mike Brewers be accepted for donation to the Nipissing Township Museum and be added to the collections catalog. I'll need a mover in a second. Okay, Debbie and Dave. Okay. All in favor? And we will leave the hygrometer for another day. Okay, need you to research it a bit more and
Okay.
we'll go from there.
And if anyone knows anyone who might have actually used a similar model, if you could
I've never
ask them
even
about it
heard of
and or give me a way to contact them, it would be most appreciated.
I'm thinking the tobacco barns. Down
Tobacco,
down
yeah.
there.
Oh,
I
yeah,
see.
they
That would
might
be a
have,
big
yeah.
thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 'cause everything.
I wonder if, like for grain bins and.
Yeah.
And stuff like that too.
Everything, yeah.
Well, anything in the barn like that,
Yeah.
that has,
Cause grain bins, there's another one that.
Oh,
we got.
explosions, yeah, you never know.
Grain bins, you couldn't let them get too dry either, cause they got too dry, they got dusty and it's
That's right,
So
yeah, yeah.
the next motion is in regards to the ringer washer.
So this is offered by Dorothy Price. So this was purchased because Dorothy and her husband didn't have electricity where they lived in Commanda while raising their children. So this likely would have been about 50 years ago. So this item's already been offered to the Commanda Museum and they didn't accept it as they already have several. We do have one, seems to be a much like an earlier by several decades model. From the early 1900s from the B family. So we do already have one.
We have room for this?
If it's about the same size, and unfortunately she didn't have dimensions, but I believe it would be similar in size. Based on different things that I've seen. We could put it in the church beside the other one. And again, if we do accept it, it would be more as part of a working collection, so it could be used for hands-on demonstrations. Rather than a static piece. Even though it has like historical provenance. I think if it's too big to sort of accept and just have it sit there. But again, it is a more bulky item. So I would just it's like, see, this is the thing, it's relevant because that, you know, a lot of people don't realize that it was well into the mid 1900s when certain areas of this township still didn't have electricity. And that, you know, people were still buying these types of things. It wasn't that just that they were using what they had, they were still purchasing these types of,
1854 hydro came through Ottawa.
yeah.
Mhm.
And a lot of people didn't realize it was quite that late in the century. So
Okay, so the motion then reads that the ringer washer from Dorothy Price be accepted for donation to the Nipissing Township Museum and be added to the collections catalog. Need a mover and a seconder.
As long as we have enough food.
Yes.
Dave?
Yeah, she's
It's-
She knows what the word is.
no,
My
no.
only concern is, and it's got, oh, let me finish this motion. So all in favor? Perfect. My only concern is, and it's really got nothing to do with this artifact, is with the number of things that we're getting donated, we're running out of space.
Yes,
Yeah, we don't have space.
And that's really unfortunate, but maybe it's something we need to address moving forward. And I don't know
Or we
where,
could
how
trade
we-
it later for a washboard and tub.
well,
we
yeah,
got those too, Steve.
Yeah.
We don't need more of those either.
yeah.
So the current,
And it wasn't just the ringer washer, sorry, that I'm making that about. I mean, we're getting a lot of donations. When you go get 4 in one meeting, you know, that's a lot of donations.
it can vary quite a lot year to year.
Yeah, 'cause we don't always get,
No, and then other times, for example, a few years ago, we got a huge collection from one family. It's so the overall hope and plan is to consolidate the paperwork. So the records that we do have on file, so that includes accession files, gift forms, loan forms, catalog forms. If we can consolidate all in one place, we have that information. Then again, this has already been started, but inventories of each area, comparing what we have on paper, what is actually in our collection, and figuring out which items we have in the collection that we do not have paperwork or provenance for, and eventually selecting some items that we have no information or provenance for and are therefore not historically significant, are either irrelevant to the area or duplicates, and eventually deaccessioning those. There's a process for that. But unfortunately, until the paperwork consolidation is done, I can't know exactly what we can reasonably let go of, and what we absolutely need to hang on to because it is of historical significance. It just, someone didn't apply the number once.
No, I understand, yeah.
So yes, it's something that we need to address. And it's trying to find a balance between getting that work done and bringing in visitors to the museum in the short span of time that we have.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, we haven't done a lot of work on that yet this summer. We will have a few weeks at the end of the summer. Hopefully we'll be able to get more done. But it is an ongoing concern. And why the decisions to whether or not to accept things, even if they are historically significant, can be so difficult. It's not that I wanted to argue against accepting something that might be relevant.
No,
It's
I
just-
understand. It's just that,
I
and
know
like I
that-
said, I wasn't actually
No, I know.
focusing in on the ringer washer. It was just that, I know you said at the beginning of this year's meetings that we were purging a little bit because of sharing space with the rec committee now, and,
I didn't purge anything.
oh, you didn't,
No,
okay.
no, no. I didn't even have to take things back to the township museum. I just shifted things on the shelves.
Oh, okay.
downstairs.
Okay, so my misunderstanding.
That's okay.
But no, that's fine, but if we're already running into storage space
Yeah.
issues, and the museum, although it looks wonderful, if you keep piling stuff in it, it's gonna start to not look so wonderful.
It gets easily overwhelming with just a few extra artifacts. But the difficulty is that when things of historical significance are offered, we can't always wait on it.
No, I know.
So that's,
why I made the comment that it's
Yeah.
something that we need to sort of park in the back of our minds, that at some point in time, we may have to,
yeah,
make a decision about.
and it's much better not to accept it, given our current state. It's much better not to accept something if we think we're gonna let go of it later. Like I said, there are procedures that have to be followed. And those can take time, and the artifacts are gonna take up space until that can be done. So it's much better to not accept something that we think we're gonna let go of eventually because of space restrictions, than to accept it and then have to go through that process. That's all.
Absolutely,
And keep in
absolutely.
mind, we're not a clearinghouse.
No,
No,
and it's gonna be a process that I think is gonna ruffle feathers, unfortunately. And that's why the records keeping is so important.
I would imagine just, if you don't keep it, it has to go back to the family that donated it,
It's
does it
not.
not?
No,
No?
it's not allowed to.
Oh,
Generally speaking, there are sort of best practices that are set out by the Canadian Museum Association. So generally speaking, you are not allowed to give back an artifact to the original donor. I think with larger museums, this makes more sense because they're being given a tax receipt. We don't give tax receipts for artifacts. But the accepted best standard is to first offer the artifact to other museums that may wish to take them.
mhm.
I think for most of the items that it's not gonna be, what's gonna happen there. But it depends on the artifact and the museums in the area and what they're interested in potentially taking. Next, it would go to live auction. The funds from the auction have to go to care of collections. They're not allowed to go to operations budgets. If no one buys it at auction, it's to be destroyed in front of witnesses.
Oh, wow.
So that's why I said it's better not to accept it. So in other museums I've worked at, you'll often get, maybe a collection of things on offer and they're all given to the museum. And the museum then has the choice of accepting them or not. So what happens with the items that are not accepted from that collection but are in the possession of the museum, those can, for example, go to a secondhand store or something like that. It's more once it's in the collection and we have taken responsibility for its care, then we have to follow these specific procedures.
Good to know.
Yes, I know it. I think when this museum was first started, it might have been, especially in a sort of smaller museum or rural, it would have been fine to have given it back to the donor. But there are sort of,
Right there,
but there's also, there's
loan contracts for museums as well, right?
pardon?
Aren't there loan contracts for?
Yes,
If I had something, an artifact that you wanted for the museum for a presentation, I could loan it to you.
Oh, for a short period or a certain
So we
period
do-
of time.
Periods of
we
time.
also, that's the other problem where we've run into is we've got a lot of things that are on loan. And I believe the manager, my predecessor, immediate predecessor, had gone through and tried to contact some of the people who loaned items. The other thing that you run into with loans or with artifacts that you're trying to deaccession is if the original donor has passed on, or if it was donated by more than one member of the family, and there's arguments about who is taking it back.
Mm.
So there's legal problems there too.
It's called Pandora's box.
Mhm.
We also, for the things that we don't have any paperwork for, even if someone says that they were the one that donated it, unless they happen to have one of our gift forms and we didn't keep a copy, we don't have any proof and we legally can't give it back to them. So there's a lot involved in this process and it is unfortunately going to take time.
Mhm.
So we just have to be very, very circumspect about what we do take to control.
Okay.
So you're almost at a point where you say, well, we can foot the liability if we take that. It almost sounds like that.
It's something that needs to be considered.
How many people are in your family? How well do you get along?
Well, see, that's the thing, we can't ask that, and even if we did, things
They might
could
get along
change in the
today,
next
but not
5 days.
tomorrow.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely.
So, and we can't get involved in that.
No.
Okay,
Do we
so
have anything else with artifacts? Are we
done that one?
on to exhibits now?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry,
Okay.
okay. So for the Teen Talk, the maple syrup exhibit was set up in the hardware store. So that's already up. The students are currently working on the building the homestead exhibit for Heritage Day, since that's our theme. So they're doing a large format poster, similar to the Stories from the Road poster that we've made last year. So they've already done their part and I'm just editing it. And again, I'd just like to say how far they've come, and how wonderful a job they're doing. No matter what I've asked them to do, they've done their best. They felt comfortable asking questions and they've more than met my expectations. So yeah, so we're gonna install that ready for Heritage Day along with a small rearrangement of the woodworking display in the hardware store. And that's gonna be part of the permanent exhibits from then on. So for the remembrance exhibits and interactives, we've got a few ideas and a few options. So and I did get in contact with Joel Montagnus, and we've gotten some advice and information from him. One of the interactives would be a choose your own adventure style. So this essentially is gonna allow people to understand some of the situations that people face during either the First World War, the Second World War, both, I'm not sure yet. Based on specific local people as well as sort of generalities, and sort of take them through different situations and then sort of have something at the end telling them about what actually happened to this person. But it sort of allows them to sort of understand some of the decisions, why people made some of the decisions, what different criteria they were facing, what information they were being fed, or were seeing or were hearing. So that's something hopefully that will sort of be suitable for all ages. We can have sort of some creative contests, so design a broadside or propaganda poster. So that would probably be for older audiences. Or draw a scene inspired by a wartime song or poem, or a letter written, or write their own poem, make a poppy, maybe have some different craft materials. So we can have some of those things available for people to sort of see or participate in during the event. For outreach towards education groups, so schools, scout groups, guides. I have talked with Tom Morrow, who's a scout leader. And I have talked to teachers previously. For the South Shore School, coming to the museum is okay. For most other schools, their busing is an issue. So these are things that were specifically designed as a traveling exhibit. I know this is something we've wanted to do for a while, and I just sort of wasn't sure how to go about it. But so as part of the things that will be installed here for the event, if we also make it so that it can be a traveling exhibit or traveling program, we can take it to the regular meetings of the scout group. So if they meet on Monday night, we can take this to the Monday nearest the event, or we can bring it to the school for the different classes instead of having each of the classes come over to the museum, especially because at that time of year there won't be heat on. So that's something that I'm sort of thinking about as we're figuring out how we're gonna go about creating the exhibit. So I haven't, again, it's just, we've been focusing on other things, so there's not sort of much created. It's still a concept at the moment. But that's what I've got for exhibits for this year.
Okay. The strategic plan update.
So the gift shop sales have not been great this year so far. This is partly due to the fact that the gift shop is set up temporarily in our exhibit space in the log church. So hopefully this is a temporary trend. Like I think just people, it's not the most comfortable experience to browse in the exhibit. And there's a limited selection there. However, the candy sales, which had been a replacement for the yard sales, a fundraiser, have been steadily declining over the last few years, not just this year. One of the reasons I think is that a significant portion of those sales also tended to happen when the museum was open in June, when the elementary school was still, like there were still classes going on, so people were driving by, they were seeing the museum was open, sometimes they'd stop in after school to get the kids a treat. Or the older kids, they would stop in on the way home from school. We used to have a group that would sort of hang out in the gazebo. So I think that has been a factor, the fact that we didn't open until after the schools were closed. If we have at least one of the students that was available, which we might next year, earlier in the year, it might be worth opening earlier. Even, I think part of it was, even if they didn't necessarily stop in on the way home from school, driving by it repeatedly and seeing the open sign, then later in the summer when they're not driving the same route because their kids aren't in school, I think it's still stuck in people's mind that it was open. Whereas if they only ever saw it closed, they're less likely to come back when it is open later in the summer. I'm not sure. But I was looking at the numbers from years when we were open in June, and even though it seemed quiet, there was still a fair amount of our visitor numbers and revenue did come from that period of time. So that's something to think about when planning for opening next year and the next few years. So although we have yet to actually give the workshop tomorrow, and we may not have as many people as were registered, but so far having the workshops with the pre-registration have been helpful. So they're not necessarily a great revenue generator, but it seems to be raising awareness of the museum in general. Just from some of the feedback we've gotten from different people through Facebook, or like it seems to be a different crowd sometimes. Like sometimes it's people that have come to the museum before, or things like that. But a lot of it, like I've had a few people inquire about where it is. So they haven't been before. So it seems to be raising awareness and providing value to the community that might not be interested in history. They're also more predictable than events such as the Tea and Talk and Heritage Day, because even though there might be like, plus or minus 5 people, it's a little bit easier to plan for in that sense. So something to consider for next year would be to have more of those and plan them from the start of the season.
Sorry, Julian, in place of the Heritage Day event, or no?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
But like I think a lot of these workshops, okay, if it's food related, that's a little bit different. For some of the craft type workshops, that, for example, the basket making, if there's a few that are sort of, we could do variations on that. I found some other crafts like how to learn weaving through making a cardboard loom.
Mhm.
Just make a little coaster, but you can make your own loom. Those are things that I can plan while I'm at the landfill during quiet hours and sort of have more of that prepped before the museum actually opens.
Right.
So that would still get people coming out. But hopefully it would be something that I can do a lot of planning for ahead of time. It just, like I said, it seemed to generate a little bit more awareness of the museum. We've gotten good feedback on it so far. If we did one workshop every 2 weeks, as long as we pick something that's not too complicated or something that I can prep ahead of time, hopefully that will help with our numbers. So the students have been fantastic, coming up with lots of different ideas, some of which I had to say, no, that's too complicated. But most of which are, like, I think they'll draw different crowds. If we sort of experiment a little bit with what things we have on, say, weekends versus weekdays, mornings versus afternoons.
Even evenings, if
and-
you can swing it.
Yeah, different evening things.
I just got
and
this
different
picture of my head of Dean on a quiet day in the dump weaving baskets. I was trying to suppress it, but it wasn't working.
I'll have to tell him that next time I see him, tell him what he's been roped into.
So
Yeah,
are we gonna look into maybe getting the signs at both
Yes.
fire halls for
Yeah.
Heritage Day?
Yeah.
Like all it is letters and.
I've put in the request to
Good.
have the sign up. I'm not sure. So I've heard that the signs are gonna change a little bit next year. And instead of having the letters, they will be full-size poster boards. So for our regular events like Heritage Day, it will have sort of the general information, and then we'll be able to sticker over the date each year. And
I just mean in front of the
Yeah.
fire halls, that we're
Yeah.
having Heritage Day.
Yeah, no, but that's what's gonna be changing. I think that's why sometimes they've been blank. They're looking into changing how they're doing it. Instead of doing the individual letters, they're gonna be bigger boards that will slide in and out of the whole sign.
We can look at it for this year, 'cause I
Yeah.
think it's still the letters right now.
Yeah,
so-
Yeah.
I did ask.
Okay,
Okay.
that's great.
Okay,
That's
Yeah.
all I can do.
Okay.
So
okay, is that it?
Yeah, 'cause I think, I've touched on everything else. Yes.
Okay,
Will you let me know tomorrow about the sign, Kim?
I sure
If
will.
not, I'll come and put it up, like
Yep.
take 10 minutes.
does
Sure.
anybody else have anything before we do the motion to adjourn? Seeing nothing? What time is it?
It is 7:17.
Okay, I need a mover and a seconder. Dave, Steve? So the motion reads that the board meeting is hereby adjourned at 7:17 PM. Next meeting will be held Wednesday, September the 3rd, 2025 at 6 PM. All in favor? Carried. Thank you, everybody.
Okay.
I think that's the longest meeting we've